on the ministerial statement on BIFAP, and we'll move on to the next item of business. Can I remind all members that social distancing measures are in place, so take care, please, when entering and leaving the chamber and across the Holyrood campus. The next item of business is a statement by Ash Denham on fireworks. The Minister will take questions at the end of her statement, so there should be no interventions or interruptions. And I call on Ash Denham for up to 10 minutes, please, Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And we're only days away now from Bonfire Night, and I welcome this opportunity to provide an update to Parliament. So firstly, I'd like to reflect on the impact that the ongoing pandemic will have on Bonfire Night, and like many celebrations, this is going to look very different in the context of COVID-19. And many of the activities we traditionally associate with Bonfire Night will simply not be able to take place as they normally would. And at this point, it's important to highlight that we're asking the public what we're asking the public to do and what to avoid in celebrating Bonfire Night this year, as we continue to do everything we can to suppress the spread of coronavirus. Public firework displays, which normally would be taking place in communities across Scotland, will not be happening this year. And I know that will be a disappointment to many people who and families who normally attend these events as a safe and a fun way to enjoy fireworks. However, very large gatherings are simply not viable right now. Where people choose to purchase fireworks to have their own private display, they must adhere to the guidance on meeting other households that apply in their local area. And this means that anyone using fireworks in their back garden need to follow the restrictions on household gatherings, carefully following the facts, advice and physical distancing guidance. And I want to be clear that there shouldn't be private displays in gardens with spectators that are exceeding the numbers that are set out locally. And as local areas have been placed in levels of restriction, this will mean that no more than 6 people from 2 different households. And people using fireworks should also stringently follow the safety instructions on the packaging of the products they purchase to reduce the risk of harm and injury. It's also important to stress that it's illegal to use fireworks in a public place in Scotland, and this includes areas such as parks and fields, and people cannot and should not be using fireworks anywhere other than on their own property. The measures and restrictions that I've just described are the only appropriate step to take at this time in terms of guidance, and I strongly encourage everyone to abide by them this Bonfire Night. Whilst the ongoing pandemic will clearly have an impact on Bonfire Night, substantial planning and also preparation by community safety partners at both a national and a local level continues to operate this year. Unfortunately, there have been persistent issues with the misuse of fireworks in Scotland over recent years, and these incidents are often dangerous and they can also be life-threatening. And this includes reports of antisocial behaviour on and around Bonfire Night, attacks against our emergency services, and sometimes the very distressing accounts from individuals about the inappropriate use of fireworks that they've experienced. Already this year, I'm aware that there have been completely unacceptable incidents of fireworks being thrown at our emergency services over the weekend. The Scottish Government does not tolerate any attack on our emergency services, and the line is clear from our police, from our prosecutors and our court that people who commit these offences will be dealt with robustly. Last month, I met with senior commanders in Police Scotland and the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, who updated me on their extensive multi-agency planning that's underway as part of Operation Moonbeam to ensure a safe and enjoyable bonfire season and to tackle any incidents of unacceptable behaviour that may arise. And this includes multi-agency control centres where police and fire colleagues work together to coordinate swift and appropriate responses to incidents as they emerge. And I'm also aware that a significant amount of local partnership activity has been undertaken by the emergency services and other public and third sector partners to plan for bonfire season and prevent the disruption and disorder often associated with fireworks. I spoke with control room staff this morning, And they briefed me on incidents that had happened over the weekend involving fireworks and on the plans for the coming days. And I'm sure that the Chamber will join me in thanking and applauding the hard work, the dedication and commitment to partnership working and planning for Bonfire Night and responding to fireworks-related incidents by our emergency services in communities across Scotland. And I'm also aware that more people may choose to purchase and use fireworks themselves this year. And to help ensure people understand what is and what isn't allowed under the current regulations and to ensure that fireworks are used safely, 3 public awareness-raising safety campaigns have been launched to make people aware of how to use fireworks in a responsible and a considerate way and minimise the impact on others within their community. So firstly, the nationwide Impact of Fireworks campaign to improve people's understanding of the impact fireworks can have on people, including those with sensory issues, our armed forces veterans, and on pets and also livestock. Secondly, the Fireworks Rules and Regulations campaign, and that's in partnership with Crime Stoppers, to help improve understanding on the existing rules, regulations, and how to report fireworks misuse. And finally, a fireworks safety information leaflet providing advice and guidance on the safe and appropriate use of fireworks is being distributed by participating retailers to individuals when they're purchasing their fireworks. And this package of activity demonstrates the government's ongoing commitment to promoting the safe and appropriate use of fireworks. So last November, following the public consultation on fireworks, which saw a significant level of public interest and engagement, we had a total of over 16,000 responses. I committed to establishing a fireworks review group. And it was clear from the level of response to the consultation that fireworks are an important issue to the people of Scotland and that there was a strong appetite for change. The purpose of the review group has been to look at options for legislative change and to provide recommendations on tightening legislation to drive forward action to reduce the harm that fireworks can cause. The group, chaired by Alistair Hay, that's the former Chief Officer of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, has representation from a number of key stakeholder organisations, including the fireworks industry, animal welfare representatives, the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, Veterans Scotland and the NHS. And this has ensured that a broad range of opinions, experiences and knowledge have contributed to the group's recommendations. So, despite the challenges that we've all faced this year in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, the group has met 8 times. They've carefully considered and reviewed the available evidence and the options for change. And to reach these recommendations, the group heard directly from communities about the impact of misuse of fireworks can have. They undertook more detailed research to consider the experiences of other countries and to better understand the number and nature of firework-related injuries in Scotland. The group also heard from the fireworks industry on the strides that they've made over the years to remove dangerous products from the market and to better understand the potential impact that greater restrictions could have. And I'm now delighted to advise that the group have submitted their final report to me. And the group has recommended that a fundamental shift is required in how fireworks are accessed and used, and that this is done through the introduction of a comprehensive set of measures, so including the introduction of mandatory conditions when fireworks are purchased from retailers, restricting the times of day that fireworks can be sold and volume of fireworks that can be purchased at any one time, restricting the days and times fireworks can be set off, introducing no firework areas or zones where it's not possible for fireworks to be set off, and introducing a proxy purchasing offence so that adults are not able to give fireworks to those who are under the age of 18. So I very much welcome and I endorse these recommendations, which I will be giving greater consideration to in due course. I believe they will help us to take a positive step towards promoting the safe and responsible use of fireworks going forward. I particularly welcome the recommendations on introducing mandatory conditions before fireworks are able to be purchased by the general public, and for communities to have a strong voice in influencing whether fireworks can be used in their local area. I intend to explore how these can be implemented in practice with a matter of urgency and using the full power of the Parliament, bring forward legislation to make these a reality. So I will look to members across the chamber to be involved in helping us to make those changes and to improve safety in communities around Scotland. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Alistair Hay and all the members of the group for their continued engagement and constructively sharing their expertise and views to inform the recommendations. And whilst the group's final report and recommendations mark an important milestone in our journey towards a significant change in our relationship with fireworks, they form part of a bigger ongoing picture. And the kind of cultural shift that we're seeking to achieve will not happen overnight, and it will require continued hard work and dedication, which I am committed to. I'm determined that we can do all we can within the power of this Parliament to ensure we have the safeguards in place that we need to keep our communities safe from the harmful use of fireworks. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, I hope that the review group's recommendations that are outlined today, which I commit to progressing as soon as practicably possible, clearly demonstrate this government's commitment to changing Scotland's relationship with fireworks, guided by the voice of the people that came across so strongly in the public consultation. I'd like to reiterate my gratitude to everyone who's contributed towards the progress that we've made so far, and this includes the members of the public, organisations who responded to the public consultation, and the expert knowledge and advice of the Firework Review Group. Once again, I'd like to sincerely thank our emergency services, public and third sector services, as well as those in our communities who volunteer their spare time to make Bonfire Night safe and enjoyable, for their commitment and dedication. I know this year will feel very different, but I'd like to wish everyone a safe Bonfire Night and reinforce the importance of following the public health advice and the safety guidance. Thank you.
The Minister will now take questions on the issues raised in her statement, and I will allow around 20 minutes for that. I would ask members to please press the request to speak buttons if they wish to ask a question, and I call on Liam Kerr.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I thank the Minister for advance sight of her statement. Having raised matters of firework safety and protection of emergency workers for the past few years, she knows we take this very seriously. I'm very pleased to hear this statement today. And we join her in thanking the emergency services who go above and beyond 24/7, but are particularly called upon at this time of year. And we acknowledge that the Firework Review Group report is a timely and serious piece of work, and we recognise the serious endeavour by the group and the expertise, experience and strength of Alistair Hay as chair. Now, 3 questions occur to me arising from this statement. Firstly, when the Minister says she will give greater consideration to the Review Group's recommendations around safeguards, can she give us some idea of a timescale for that? Secondly, in a week where we learn the number of recorded assaults recorded on emergency workers is the highest on record, what measures have been taken right now to protect our emergency workers during this period? For example, has the Minister considered any of the package of measures I called for to protect emergency services workers back in 2018? And finally, 2 years ago, I visited Dundee Fire Control Room on the night and expressed support for the Do Not Attack Me campaign. Can the Minister tell me what assessment the government has made of that campaign, and what resource is the Minister going to put behind the new campaigns to ensure that they are successful?
Ash Denham.
I thank the member for his thoughtful questions. I would say that I'm glad that the member can see some of the recommendations in the report that we will be bringing forward, and he welcomes them, and I welcome his support for them. I would say, in terms of the timing for implementing legislation, and I do completely understand that people are very interested in the timing of this, but I would expect members to understand that obviously we are nearing the end of a parliamentary session here. We are looking at Parliament ending and a new Parliament starting again in May, which seriously curtails the available legislative time for me to bring forward these. But I would say that I am absolutely committed to driving forward legislative change in this area, that some of the legislation being proposed will be by secondary legislation, and I will do what I can to see if I can bring forward the secondary legislation in a very timely way. The other recommendations are going to require primary legislation, so that would be things like the mandatory conditions at the point of sale and devolving decisions to local authorities. So I anticipate that those things may take longer. So it is a balance to be struck between doing things in a piecemeal fashion and maybe doing things all together so that it makes more sense to the general public. But I will give the commitment that I will progress things as fast as I possibly can. Moving on to a tax on emergency service workers, and I recognise the member has asked about this before in the chamber. The Scottish Government does not and will not tolerate any attacks on our emergency services. No one should be the victim of abuse or violence when they're at work. And the police, the courts and the prosecutors are very clear that they will deal robustly with anyone that's offending in this area. And those charged with attacks against our emergency service workers can expect to face up to life imprisonment, an unlimited fine, or both.
Alex Rowley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Public firework displays are the best way forward and the safest way forward around Guy Fawkes Night. So it is particularly worrying that this year those displays have been cancelled and the pressure is therefore going to be far greater. I know that the Minister says that we need to improve help people understand the rules and regulations around the fireworks. I think that's something that should have been well underway. And it's not only on bonfire night. If only it were bonfire night, then all those people who are worried about their pets and all the rest of it could prepare for that one night. The real problem is that this is something that is often persistent over weeks, if not months. So whilst I welcome the recommendations of the review group, I would say to the Minister that we have seen in recent times, her colleague Michael Russell, for example, is quite an expert in being able to bring parties together, to work together, to bring forward legislation. So even if it's primary legislation that is needed, does she accept it would not be good enough to use a parliamentary term and an election to be back here in the same position next year talking about what we need to do? I think people want to see progress. And can I ask Ash Denham, she rightly thanks her emergency and public services. Can I ask her that more and more has been asked of her emergency and public services? As a minister, when looking at these issues, is she asking the question, have we got enough resources, or do our public and emergency services need more resources because more and more has been asked of them?
Ash Denham.
Thank you for that question. Of course I am asking the question about resources. So I spoke to Police Scotland this morning and I was assured the exact quote that was given to me by a senior police officer this morning was that they had good local resources in place and they also have specialist public order response available to them nationally. So of course we do, and you know that this government continues to invest in the police service and also in the fire service, and that is in direct contrast to what we often see down south in England and Wales. The member will also be aware that we have many more firefighters available in Scotland. So per head of capita, we have nearly double the number that they have in England, and we have far more than they have in Wales as well. So this government certainly invests in our emergency services. In terms of public fireworks displays, the member is right that they are often the safest place for members of the public to go and to be able to enjoy fireworks safely. And obviously, because of COVID-19 this year, they're not able to take place. So we think there's a possibility that more people might be considering having fireworks parties in their garden, for instance. I would say that people need to be very careful about doing that. Firstly, they need to follow the public health advice, make sure there's no more than 6 people there from 2 households. But after that, they need to follow the safety advice as well, because when you look at the fireworks injuries, mostly they are incurred on private property. So that means when people are having fireworks parties, they're much more likely to get injured as a result of using fireworks themselves. The member also asked about rules and regulations and about the awareness-raising campaigns. I mentioned in my speech we had 3 different awareness-raising campaigns, of which the rules and regulations was only one. It's been going for several weeks now, and it was also something very similar to that was done last year and the year before. So it is not correct to say that this has only just been done now, but these are things that build on each other and continue to get that message out to the public. In terms of timings, The legislation, changing the legislative framework, I'm sure the member would agree, and I'm sure that across the chamber would accept this as well. It's only one part of the solution. Legislation on its own will not drive the cultural shift that we're wanting to see in Scotland as part of this. I've already made the commitment to Liam Kerr that I will progress this as fast as possible, but I cannot create space in the legislative timetable that just isn't there. So I will commit to looking to see what secondary legislation can be brought forward in a faster timeframe, if that's possible. But in terms of primary legislation, I do think that that is going to take time, and I would hope that the member would appreciate that.
Right. Okay, can I just say that's the front bench questions have taken 8 minutes. Now, I've humoured that because we had some extra time, but it's just not acceptable. And I have to say, Minister, it was mainly the answers, much as you wish to give out lots of information. I get that. You have to learn to do it a bit more quickly. So can I say to everyone else, we've used up all the spare time, so if I'm going to get you all in, we have to be a bit more succinct. Ruth Maguire, followed by Margaret Mitchell.
Presiding Officer, I welcome the recommendation from the review group that communities should be listened to when it comes to their own areas. Can I ask the Minister how the Scottish Government will ensure that changes are guided by the communities who are impacted by fireworks, please?
Can I also say that speaking really fast doesn't always solve the problem?
The Scottish Government is committed to ensuring that the voices of people and communities, particularly those who have experienced negative consequences of fireworks use, guide the changes that are being made to how fireworks are accessed and used in Scotland. So the public consultation on fireworks, which ran for 14 weeks in 2019, saw an incredible response from the public of over 16,000 responses. And that public voice demonstrated a strong desire for change. So we're going to continue this open and collaborative approach with communities and be guided by them. And one of the recommendations from the review group is obviously that local authorities can provide these no firework zones and that communities are able to shape them themselves. And so we will look at taking that forward.
Margaret Mitchell, followed by Annabel Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. One of the review group's recommendations is to further restrict the days and times fireworks can be set off. Can the Minister confirm if the working group gave any thought as to how these restrictions would be enforced?
Ash Denham.
Okay. Yes, the member is quite correct. That was one of the recommendations put forward by the review group. And I think this applies more generally, that I would say to the member that the review group report has only come to me within the last few days, as the member will accept. And I have tasked my officials immediately with looking into how we might practically take these recommendations forward. So I'm afraid I'm not able to give the member any more detail at this point on what that might look like.
Annabel Ewing, followed by Pauline McNeill.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As the MSP for Cowdenbeath constituency, I'm very well aware of the huge distress caused to domestic pets, livestock and wildlife in my constituency, and so I very much welcome the review group's report. Can the Minister advise as to what role silent or lower noise fireworks, such as are used in parts of Italy, what role they could play, perhaps, in the future in Scotland?
Ash Denham.
I think the member raises an excellent point there. I'm aware that the House of Commons Petitions Committee have recommended that the UK government lead a review working with animal welfare experts and the fireworks industry on the effects of firework noise on animal welfare, with a view to setting a maximum decibel limit, which would then diminish the risks to animal health. So the UK government has responded to that. They've commissioned a programme of firework testing to determine the average decibel level for common types of retail fireworks. So I'm going to follow that work very carefully and see if there's any learning from that can be applied to Scotland.
Pauline McNeill, followed by Andy Whiteman.
I'm advised that the Scottish Riot Police are already on standby for Thursday. Given the huge support for a complete ban on fireworks, something like 87%, does the Minister consider that the new proposals might just simply be delaying the inevitable, that further restrictions, unless enforced vigorously, might fail, and that further public support for a ban in private use might be inevitable?
Ash Denham.
Well, the review group didn't look at completely banning the scale of fireworks. I asked them not to look at it because Scotland doesn't have the ability to do that. So it didn't seem to be an appropriate use of their time to look at things that we weren't actually able to do. I would say to the member that in terms of policing, I have spoken to the police extensively. I spoke to them a couple of weeks ago about the Gold Commanders, about the planning and so on going forward for Bonfire Evening. And I also spoke to Police Scotland and SFRS this morning about what had happened over the weekend. Because obviously we know that Bonfire Night often applies to both weekends, not just the day that Bonfire Night is on. And the police are going to use an appropriate level of response. So they have local response available, and they also have specialist public order resources as well that they can pull in. So I would say that they will only use them when it's absolutely necessary to do so.
Andy Whiteman, followed by Liam MacArthur.
Thank you. I thank the Minister for advancing out the statement and welcome the publication of the review into this explosive issue. 3 questions. First of all, the recommendation 2 on mandatory conditions on consumers. Can she confirm whether such conditions can be made binding on online sales, given that there's a lot of that happening? Second, can she confirm that where ordinary workers are required to enforce any new restrictions, they have the full protection of the law, an issue raised in consideration of Daniel Johnson's Protection of Workers Bill? And finally, many fireworks continue to be set off in public places. Can she inform me of how many prosecutions have been made under Section 80 of the Explosive Act 1875?
Ash Denham.
On the member's latter point, I no doubt have it in this briefing. I'll probably not be able to locate it in time to answer the question, so I will write to the member if that's acceptable to update him on that. In terms of mandatory conditions on the point of sale, we can't expect to completely eradicate instances where those who are intent on misusing fireworks go on to do so, but I think it does have the important potential to bring in additional safety checks and balances to make it harder for fireworks to fall into the wrong hands and to ensure that all safety measures are fully understood and followed by everyone who is planning to use fireworks. And I would also say that in terms of online sales, that is something that I am having my officials look at very closely, as it is something the member's right to raise. It is an important issue.
You were too quick there, Minister. You caught me unawares. Liam MacArthur, followed by Fulton McGregor.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I thank the Minister for early sight of the statement. Thank also Alistair Hay for the work of him and his colleagues in this review, and having last year raised the issue of giving local authorities, local communities more control in this area. Can I welcome that commitment from the Minister? But can she perhaps advise Parliament on whether or not she anticipates a higher level of disturbance as a result of back garden fireworks set off by those who otherwise would be attending public events?
Ash Denham, did you catch all that, Minister?
I think I did, and I think it was quite similar to a question I've asked and answered already, but I do agree with that. I think that we know that public displays are the safest place for people to go and safely enjoy fireworks evening. Obviously, that's not going to be possible this year because of the COVID regulations, and I think there is a possibility that many people, perhaps who have never done it before, will consider having a fireworks party in their garden. I would advise people who haven't done that before to they can go onto the SFRS website, and they have some guidance on there about how to enjoy fireworks safely. So I'd advise people to do that. Make sure you follow the operational instructions, and to everyone to have a safe and enjoyable bonfire evening.
Fulton McGregor, followed by Maurice Corey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As the Minister said in her statement, while the group's recommendations are an important milestone, the kind of cultural shift that will change our relationship with fireworks will not happen overnight and require sustained work. How will the Scottish Government's awareness raising and safety campaigns feed into this?
Ash Denham.
So I recognise that legislation in and of itself, as I've said earlier, is not going to be enough to tackle all the issues about fireworks misuse. And that is why the action plan that I came to Parliament to talk about this time last year sets out those additional actions. That's things like awareness raising, education and preventative activity across communities in Scotland. And even though we've had COVID this year, that level of preventative activity has still been ongoing in all of our communities. So in advance of Bonfire Night, to help ensure people understand what is and isn't allowed, those 3 campaigns have been running over the last few weeks, and hopefully a number of people across Scotland have been able to see them, to make people aware of what they're allowed to do and how to use fireworks safely and responsibly.
Maurice Corrie, followed by Christine Graham.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. In the minutes of the 13th of August meeting of the Fireworks Review Group, they noted that preventative activities for antisocial behaviour on fireworks night have not been able to be progressed due to COVID-19 restrictions. Does the Minister therefore anticipate more antisocial behaviour as a result of this?
Ash Denham.
I'm not sure I would agree with that, because in the information that I've seen, a vast amount of preventative activity has been ongoing. So if I just give you an example of Edinburgh, families where people had previously been involved in antisocial behaviour.
Excuse me, Minister, could you speak more to your microphone?
Of course. Were either visited or they were given a handwritten letter. SFRS and the police have been into primary schools and secondary schools, and if they weren't able to do that physically, they were then doing that in a virtual way, so they were still able to get that message across. And also there have been leaflet drops, and there have also been the awareness-raising campaigns which have been targeted specifically to hotspot areas where we know that message needs to be taken forward. So I am quite confident that the preventative activity that we have seen in previous years, despite COVID, has still been carried out this year.
Christine Graham, followed by Mark Griffin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Declare an interest as convener of the cross-party group on animal welfare and to my motion Bonfire Fright, highlighting the impact of fireworks on animals. Can I therefore ask, noting that the review group recommends at recommendation 4, restricting the use of fireworks to certain days and times, thus giving advance notification to those with animals, has the Minister settled on which days, which times?
Ash Denham.
Thank you. I think that's an important question, as we know that fireworks can cause a lot of distress to animals. The ultimate responsibility for the welfare of the animal obviously rests with the keeper of the animal, but many keepers will take steps obviously to protect their animals from this distress. But recommendations that are seeking to limit the times that fireworks can be set off obviously would potentially have an opportunity to minimise that. So I can advise the member that that has not been fully determined yet in what shape that would be. And similar in an answer that I gave to a previous member, that I've tasked my officials to look at all the recommendations immediately to see exactly how these will be taken forward.
Mark Griffin, to be followed by Shona Robson.
Thanks, Presiding Officer. I welcome the recommendations from the Firework Review Group. I'm particularly interested in the no fireworks zone recommendation. Can the Minister say whether she feels that would be more appropriately enforced by Police Scotland or by local authorities if that recommendation is taken forward?
Ash Denham.
From the conversations that I've had with the Fireworks Review Group, I think there was a strong appetite from local communities to have this level of control and input into what was happening in their own areas. So again, I can't say exactly how that will look when it goes forward, but I think this looks like the kind of thing that it would be good to do, to give that power to local areas so that they were able to make those decisions, because obviously they're more likely to know what's going to be appropriate for their local area.
And the final question is from Shona Robson.
Thank you. Can I also welcome the work of the Firework Review Group in getting to this point? Well, in taking forward the detail, will the Minister undertake to consult further with those most impacted by the fireworks nuisance on how best to implement some of these recommendations as she takes them forward, so that we can get them right for those most affected?
Yes,
Ash Denham.
Yes, I can give the member that assurance that we will certainly interact with those that have suffered misuse of fireworks. And in fact, on the review group were several community organisations were represented who gave their input into the recommendations all the way through. And so the community voice has already been represented in the recommendations that we have.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes questions on the ministerial statement on fireworks, and we'll shortly move on to the next item of business. Can I remind members entering and leaving the chamber that social distancing measures are in place, as they are across the whole Holyrood campus.